Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the secrets to creating meaningful relationships as an adult. I mean, do you remember when you were a kid, like how easy it was to make friends? Like you just basically walked up to them on the playground and you're like, hey, you want to play? And just like that, like instant friendship. Sometimes those become your best friends for life. But as adults, it's a totally different story because we're juggling things like deadlines or family responsibilities or just trying to keep our lives together. And friendships, they can fall to the bottom of our priority list. And like, let's say that we even did want to go make some friends. Like, you can't just like, hey, you want to be friends? Like, that feels really, really weird, right? Like there's that awkwardness about it. And so I want to uncover this and unpack it because friendships is a really important relationship that you have in your life. And relationships is one of the core essences of the Giver Method. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of the book, The Giver Method. I think you should go get a copy because it is meant for parents, for spouses, for the employee that wants to do more, the entrepreneur who wants to break free from where they're at, parents who want to make greater impact in their life. And part of that, though, is the R, which is all about relationships and creating the right relationships and how you create value and impact in their lives. Now, I'll put a link in the description so you can go get access to this off Amazon. It is an Amazon bestseller. It's $10. It's the best $10 that you could invest in yourself. It also helps you in so many other aspects of your life. Now, if you're not ready to go buy that, I'll also put a free resource you can get called The Giver's Roadmap. I highly recommend you go take advantage of one of the two of them, if not both of them. Now, over the years, I have spent countless hours helping people just like you, the busy parents who can barely find time to themselves, or maybe ambitious entrepreneurs who, are trying to build their business, and hardworking employees putting in the long office hours. And I've seen firsthand how isolation in those scenarios, it happens too often, and the lack of deep connections can contribute to any sort of burnout or feeling stuck or a nagging sense of something important is missing from our lives. And I don't know if you felt that as a parent or in running your business or at work. I know I have. I've been there so many times over the years. I went through so many different struggles as a husband, as a dad, as the employee, and as an entrepreneur trying to find those things. Now, here's the truth. Like, it's grounded in relationships, and meaningful friendships, they aren't just nice to have. They're like actually essential to your well-being, because there's actually scientific research that shows that strong social connections are so important to our health, and as important as exercise and nutrition, because they reduce stress, they increase happiness, and they help you to live longer. But more importantly, they give us this sense of belonging and support that we deeply need, especially during life's challenges. So today I want to share with you this idea of intentional friendship, or even we'll call it the intentional friendship model, as a practical framework for creating authentic connections, even when you're a busy adult, without making it feel forced or awkward. I want to explore why so many adults struggle with deep friendships and the specific strategies that you can use to build meaningful connections, and how to really create and develop those lasting relationships that enrich your life. Whether you're looking to deepen an existing friendship or create new ones, I want you to walk away with these concrete tools that are action items that you can go implement immediately, even within a packed and busy schedule. Because here's what I know for sure. Your unique gifts and superpowers that you have, that we help people develop as a part of the Giver Method, they shine brightest in the connection with others. And creating meaningful friendships doesn't have to be another stressful item on a to-do list. Now, before we dive in, if you are new here, please subscribe. Go ahead, hit that bell for notifications. Go ahead and push the buttons right now. I'll wait for you, give you a second. I don't want you to miss out on any of the insights we have as we start to release additional content that helps people with personal growth or creating more meaningful impact. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or at thegivermethod.com. I'll include all of those links at the bottom of the description down below. Now, let's unlock the secret to creating these more authentic adult friendships. Now, the first part of this model that you need to do is you need to understand why, adults struggle with deep friendships. Creating meaningful friendships is so important, and understanding why as adults, we struggle with it. Unlike your childhood friendships that were just so natural because of proximity of shared activities, adults, we face significant structural or psychological barriers. Parents, overwhelmed professionals, time-strapped entrepreneurs. There are all sorts of barriers. Barriers aren't just inconveniences. They can actually create a perfect storm that makes deep connection increasingly more difficult. Like on a practical level, time scarcity plays a massive role. There was some research done where it showed that the average parent has just 32 to 36 minutes of free time per day, while entrepreneurs often work, 50, 60 plus hours weekly. Like when every minute feels accounted for, friendship seems like a luxury that we can't afford. And so you want to add geographical mobility into modern life. Like Americans on average, they move, I think it was, last I heard, it was over 11 times throughout their lifetime. And it's clear that maintaining consistent relationships when there's distance involved becomes difficult as well. Each move disrupts existing friendship networks, requires starting from scratch in many cases. Meanwhile, community institutions that facilitate friendships, so think about like churches and religious organizations, civic clubs, neighborhood associations, have seen memberships decline by 25% over the past 2 decades. Now, that's removing a lot of traditional friendship formation context from our lives. And so applying this understanding to your own life, you need to start by acknowledging that friendships, like struggles, aren't personal failures in any way. It's just a predictable result of modern life. And so you need to take time first to reflect this week on which barriers impact you the most. Like, is it time pressure? Is it life stage? Is it geographic distance? Like, identify the particular challenges and then create strategies on, how you can approach that. Rather than generic, make them very detailed that address the real obstacles. And then, do a friendship reality check. Grab a note, grab a journal, and document what are your current friendship situations. How many people do I consider close friends? How often do I connect with them meaningfully beyond surface level interaction? Like, what specific barriers prevent deeper connection in my life? And then take this assessment as the baseline for measuring of progress. Like, it sounds weird to measure progress in friendship, but you need to do that because having that sort of awareness, it's going to prevent you from applying maybe outdated friendship models into your current life. Many adults, they just consciously expect friends to look like they did in adolescence, constant interaction. They're looking for spontaneous plans and long conversations, but adult life, there's totally different constraints. So instead of fighting against those realities, you can build friendships that are sustainable and meaningful for who you are today and not who you were at a different phase in your life. And so that's what the rest of these principles are going to start to address. And so the next one is you need to identify what you value in a friendship. You have to take stock of this sort of a thing. What does it actually look like? What do you actually find value or meaningful in a friendship, and what that could actually look like, day to day. Many different adults, they're going to operate on this autopilot, pursuing the connection based, on their convenience or circumstance, rather than intentionally seeking out relationships that align with their values and needs. So this is, can lead to just really superficial connections that don't truly fulfill, your relational needs, or connections that require more energy to keep them moving forward. So taking time to identify what you genuinely value out of a friendship, it starts to create that compass for you that points, hey, if I've got limited time and energy, I want to point them towards the right things. So what you value in a friendship is highly individual, and it's going to differ significantly from anyone else that you may know. Some people thrive on intellectual stimulation, some like deep philosophical conversations, others like practical support and reliability. So seek friendships that provide the emotional validation and personal growth, while maybe others want to prioritize shared activities and laughter. There's no universal definition of what a good, valuable, meaningful friendship is. So what matters is identifying those qualities and dynamics that energize and fulfill you personally. These preferences are often shaped by unique gifts and superpowers that you tend to value in others and complement what you have. It enhances your own natural strengths. So implementing this, start by creating that a friendship value inventory. Set aside just some time uninterrupted where you can reflect on your past friendships that felt particularly meaningful and energized you, and what were the qualities that made them valuable. Was it intellectual stimulation? Was it support? Was it shared sense of humor, practical help, or something else entirely? It could be all sorts of things. Also, consider friendships that drained you despite seeming good on paper. What elements were misaligned? And then write down specific qualities. What were the values that built you up? What were the ones that maybe pulled away? Now translate those into what criteria, for a friend, what am I looking for? That criteria is going to help you move beyond that surface level factor and general background or that circumstance friendship that could happen. you can even create cards or some sort of way where you review before social events, like who am I considering investing my time and energy into as a part of a new connection. Not being about judgmental in any way. Like, this is about being intentional with the limited energy time that you have, especially during busy life stages. It often will lead to relationships that drain energy without providing you connection. So parents may have friends based solely on their kids' activities. Entrepreneurs may connect only with people in their industry. Employees maybe with just office friendships, but those part so quickly. As I've switched careers and such, there are people felt I was great friends with that I just don't talk to anymore. So that the circumstantial connections, that deepen over time. Friendships are built on these shared values and are far more likely to be more fulfilling and long-lasting. It's going to help you recognize different friendships serve different purposes, and that's okay, and that's healthy. So the third thing we want to look at is creating friendship opportunities through aligned activities. So I want to find the activities I enjoy and build me up and create energy for me. So unlike childhood, where structured settings like school automatically created friendship opportunities, adults have to intentionally create these contexts. And so the key is choosing the activities that align with your authentic interests and builds you up, not just random social events to meet people. This kind of an approach, it creates what psychologists refer to as that consistent and casual proximity. Repeated low pressure interactions that allow these connections to develop organically over time without feeling forced. The most sustainable adult friendships grow through that parallel pursuit, engaging side by side in those meaningful activities rather than facing each other from across a coffee table or with explicit purpose of just becoming friends. Side by side approach, it reduces the pressure and the awkwardness, and it makes the company it makes it much more intentional friendships. It allows connections to develop naturally through those shared experiences. So whether it's to volunteer on a project or create a pursuit or learning environment or some sort of physical activity, the shared context create the conditions for that authentic growth. So start by just identifying what are activities that genuinely interest you, align with your values, and energize you. Find those. Whatever that could be. And authenticity is what's so important here. Don't just join a hiking group if you hate the outdoors. You don't want to do that. Instead, what activities would I do regardless whether I made friends or not? Cooking classes, clubs, spiritual communities, professional development, anything. Fill in the blank. And, the specific activity matters less than the genuine interest that you have in it, as your authenticity you have will attract people who share those values and interests with you. And then commit to just consistent participation. Friendship requires interaction, and you have to develop that through regular activities. And so you can ask yourself, beyond that, make sure that as you're engaged in these, that you are asking questions beyond small talk, and actually engaging with people and actively listening to what they have to say. Keep the focus on the shared activity while remaining open to connections that might develop alongside it. Don't feel like it's forced or awkward. Creating friendship opportunities through these aligned activities works as just this natural rhythm in an adult relationship. People reveal themselves even more when, think of it like dating. People reveal themselves through the experiences and interactions, not forced moments. And so you make better connections in those moments when you do that. Now, our fourth one is to practice vulnerability, but more progressive vulnerability. You have to have appropriate vulnerability, I guess, that willingness to gradually share more personal aspects about yourself as trust and that connection develops. Because many adults, myself included, struggle with that balance between oversharing too soon or remaining, permanently surface level, which, those things can overwhelm a new connection or can, prevent deeper bonds from happening. So this idea of being progressive with your vulnerability offers this middle path where you gradually and in reciprocation, share, things and build trust and intimacy over time. And this acknowledges that the meaningful connection does require a level of openness while respecting that there is a natural progress to it, not a forced or an awkward just putting all of your stuff out there. Each time you share something slightly personal, you receive an accepting, supportive response. The relationship strengthens a little bit and creates the space for deeper connection and deeper share. So this incremental approach creates this idea of an earned security together with each other. So what you want to do to implement this progressive vulnerability is start by identifying what are your vulnerability comfort zones? Topics do you feel more or less comfortable discussing? Like sometimes it's actually mapping that out, like a mental map of like, what are my green topics that I feel comfortable sharing? What are the yellow that it's like, that's a little more personal and I need trusted acquaintances? And what are the red where it's like, nah, we got to be deeply personal before I'm willing to share that type of a thing. Having that sort of an awareness helps you share intentionally rather than just randomly. It helps control the conversation and prevents you from oversharing too much. Next, you want to do like that vulnerability, like invitation, rather than vulnerability demand. Like, so creating openness for deep conversations without pressuring others to share. Instead of directly asking the potential evasive, like deep question, like share something personal experience about yourself, like something you've been through. Then give the other person space to reciprocate if they choose. These openings, they invite that similar sharing, but respect the other person's boundaries that they may have. You're going to gain so much feedback from them that helps you to calibrate the future interactions based off of that. This progressive vulnerability is going to help you to break patterns that are there that prevent you from getting deeper, but it does it safely, allowing you to be seen without the necessary risk of going too deep too quick, throwing someone off their game because it's something that they didn't want to hear, stuff like that. So when you stay on the surface, people can't offer you support. And by sharing appropriately, you invite those others to join along with you. Some offer problem solving, others emotional validation or fresh perspectives, whatever that thing could be. This kind of a specific reciprocal support, it will strengthen the bond, turning your acquaintances into relationships and friendships that know how to show up when it matters most to you. Now, the next one is that you have to establish micro connection rituals. So building these meaningful adult friendships, it focuses on creating sustainable and consistent touch points that fit within the constraints of your life as an adult. While those traditional friendships often emphasize like lengthy in-person interaction, modern adult friendships require flexible connection. So micro connection rituals are those regular interactions that maintain and potentially deepen relationships despite limitations on time. So they could be small but meaningful touch points that create continuity and connection and extend when socializing maybe isn't possible. Ensure that your friends don't fade simply because life is busy. You look for these micro connection rituals, things that you do effectively to create that sustainability. So rather than trying to look for like these big multi-hour blocks for friendship, like where maybe there's months and months between interactions, like micro connections happen frequently enough to maintain relational momentum. So think about what small interaction nutrients, like just think of like a small meal that sustains physical health rather than like a giant feast. These micro connections sustain that rational health. The key is being intentional about it, that they're not accidental or generic. And so start by identifying what are 2 to 3 methods that align with maybe communication style preferences or lifestyle realities, voice messages, video messages, text, walk-in call, check-ins when you're on a commute, quick videos, meaningful comments on social media, sharing digital experiences, with each other, sharing memes and jokes, and there's all sorts of ways you can do that. The specific a method doesn't matter how you do it. It's more about being authentic and making it something that's sustainable in your life's rhythm. And then establish what are your connection anchors. So you're going to link those micro connection rituals to existing habits or patterns in your schedule. And so when you do that, it makes that regular routine rather than treating it as separate experiences, which then start to become feel like an obligation to you. So calendar reminders are going to be huge. Put them on your calendar. The first of the month, when am I going to try and reach out to these people? Or I know I've got these activities happening. I'm going to make sure that I share what's happening with those closest to me. A friend that just went to Disneyland, they shared as soon as they got there. Friend who is, going through some changes and some shifts in their life, and they're I want to check in on them and see how things are going over that period of time. Without structured connection points, friendships fade unintentionally. But these small and consistent rituals turn the vague intention into concrete action, and it ensures friendships remain strong even during your busiest of seasons. 30 seconds, that's all it would take. How do I find 30 seconds to go and do that? It keeps the relationship alive without adding stress to your already full plate. Now, the next one is your gifts, your superpowers to create value in your friends' lives. Adult friendships, they focus on identifying and sharing these unique gifts. Every person possesses those natural talents and perspectives. The whole idea behind the giver method, the G is your gift, your superpower. And so we all have them. and they can create value for others. And some people, it could be deep listening, it could be insightful in perspectives, it could be practical problem solving or creativity, reliable encouragement, like all sorts of things. By recognizing and intentionally sharing what you have, those gifts and superpowers, you transform friendships from a generic exchange into way more meaningful value creation process for each person as you contribute to them. This sort of approach, gift-based and superpower-based approach, aligns with everything we try to teach in the Giver Method. And you'll see videos on this channel, social posts, blogs, articles, whatever. This is our world. When you share your gifts with friends, like, you create that complementary value exchange when it's going back and forth. Like, this is a dynamic where each person contributes their unique strengths, creating more value together than they could ever do alone. It's not transactional or calculated. Like, it's just natural outcomes of being authentic and giving in that sort of a way. And the beauty of this is when, like, it makes you feel energized rather than depleted. You're operating from your natural strengths rather than feeling forced. Like, it takes from any sort of a generic relationship, and it up levels it. Authentic contributions create connections far deeper than surface level socialization ever could. So start by identifying, like, okay, what are my gifts that I can give to my friends? What are my friends' gifts, and how can they complement each other? Don't think about it from like a professional skill, like, but draw on the strengths that there could be. Like, reflect on what others consistently appreciate or seek from you in relationships, and then flip that script and look at what are you valuing from them, and then find those ways how you can combine them together to create more value and things that energize you. Look for then the opportunities to intentionally share what you have, through both established and potential friends that you could have. And the key is aligning your contributions in authentic gifts and superpowers rather than forcing them into generic friendship behaviors. Those don't match with your natural strengths that you have. And then just journal that. Keep notes of how it's working. How well are things progressing through that path? Then, of course, number 7 is you have to commit to consistent investment without, expectation. So, creating these adult friendships, focus on perhaps one of the most essential elements of connection building, like its consistency. That expectation-free investment over time. While previous principles address like specific friendship strategies, like this one addresses like this mind shift that requires like for relationships to develop. Like, at its core, meaningful relationships, like meaningful friendships, require this like patient persistence, that willingness to invest regularly in a relationship without demanding any sort of immediate return or rapid intimacy from it. It recognizes that genuine connection develops through that consistent small actions over time rather than intense effort over a short period. That expectation-free aspect of that, of this idea is particularly important for the authentic relationship to develop. When you approach friendships with specific expectations about how quickly connected we should be, or things get back to me, or having that deeper connection, like it hinders natural bonding. True friendships are going to flourish in an atmosphere of freedom and genuine interest rather than obligation and expectation. I mean, it doesn't mean accepting one-sided relationships in any way. You don't want to be doing that, but it does give meaning to, how I give to the connections through my time as I develop my own authentic rhythm rather than forcing some sort of predetermined pattern. You release yourself from that rigidness. So start by like selecting what are the 2 to 3 like connections, that you're looking for, and how I can be intentional with them. And also know that I'm not expecting anything back from them in return. It may be a new acquaintance with a friendship potentially, or an existing relationship that you want to deepen, but select that connection and then commit to like the investment anchor, which is going to be sustainable actions that you're going to take consistently to nurture it. Those anchors are going to align with your natural gifts, of course, and fit realistically within your schedule. But the specific actions, like what you're doing, doesn't matter. It's about creating the time. So calendar reminders or habit triggers, that these anchors to ensure that you follow through despite a busy schedule. And then you have to suspend expectation. Like, that's going to be one of the biggest pieces. You have to deliberately release any specific expectations about how relationships should develop or how quickly it should form or how deep that should go. Instead, just mentally evaluate connection progress and then focus on like the intrinsic value of each interaction and the satisfaction of that authentic giving that you had. Give connection some time. Don't feel like things ever have to be rushed. Give it months. It might take 3 months, 6 months before you feel like you actually see what's going on, how it's working. During that sort of a period of time, maintain consistent investment without pressuring any specific outcome, allowing natural connection patterns to emerge from that. And then just commit to consistent investment without that. Like, adult friendships rarely develop through immediate chemistry, but rather through the steady, small interactions over time. My favorite episodes of Bluey is where Bluey's dad and one of the other kids' dads end up becoming friends, and they have to go to the park with the kids playing so many times before they end up becoming friends and inviting them over to have breakfast with them. This approach, like whatever it is, it takes patience but results in relationships build on that genuine connection rather than forced interaction. I did just give away, I watch a lot of Bluey because of my kid, my youngest son, but there's some great lessons that can be learned in there. So we've covered a lot of ground today, on this idea, this journey that there is towards creating meaningful friendships. Like, the principles form this idea of this intentional friendship model, where it's that framework that acknowledges the realities of adult life while creating easy pathways to genuine connection despite the constraints of a busy schedule or competing priorities. The beauty of this sort of an idea is that it doesn't require completely restructuring your life to make it work or finding hours for additional free time. It works within existing contexts of reality while making friendships develop more intentionally and more effectively. Remember, those meaningful relationships, they're not just nice to have, additions to your life. They're essential to your well-being, your resilience, your fulfillment in life. Research is going to show that the strong social connections contribute significantly to mental health and life satisfaction and your physical longevity. To our, more secluded individualist culture, we often undervalue connections, treating them as optional rather than fundamental to human flourishing. But the truth is that we are just wired for connection, and no amount of professional success, personal achievement is going to fully compensate for that absence. If there's one message, I hope that you take from this video is this: friendship is worth the effort. Even small, consistent steps towards meaningful connections can dramatically enhance your life quality and provide you those essential support through life's inevitable challenges. Your unique gifts and superpowers shine brightest when you use them in connection with others. And the world right now, it needs your specific, authentic gifts and superpowers. It needs that. And you do that through these relationships. Now, I'd love to hear, of all these things, which resonated with you the most? Which are you planning to go and implement? Just in the comments, leave a thought, which one you'd want to go and do. Now, if you found this content valuable, then like the video, please subscribe to the channel, or maybe share this with someone else who may need to hear this message. Thank you, of course, as always, for joining me, on this sort of a journey. You can get, once again, access to the Giver Method book, Amazon bestseller. I'll put the link in the description, as well as the free resource of the Giver's Roadmap, as well as where you can find us on social and our website, all of those sort of things. So until next time, I'll just say keep discovering yourself, keep developing who you are, and keep sharing your unique gifts and superpowers with the world. They need it. And if you do that, you'd be surprised. There's going to be some friendships that pop up along the way, no matter where stage you're at in life as an adult. And so have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you in our next video.